Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keegan and welcome to my Supercoach roundup of the first round of the JLT preseason series. Now this series is only going to go over the 4 rounds of the JLT series, and it's just going to talk about a player I pick out of each game that I think could be a possibility of being a Supercoach relevant player heading into the new season. So I've looked through each of the 6 games. Now, admittedly, off the top, I'll tell you, I didn't watch all of the 6 games. I watched the Gold Coast Brisbane game, obviously, but I didn't watch any of the other games. So I basically looked over a match report, looked over some of the stats, and I've just sort of picked out a few players that have interesting stats or were reportedly to play pretty well. So without any further ado, let's get into the first game, which was Collingwood and Essendon. Now, you could probably take a few players out of this team. It was good to see some of the players like Watson and Heppel back. It was good to see some of Elliott back, even though he did re-injure himself. Hopefully that's not too serious. But the one I sort of picked out was Orazio Fantasia. Now, if you look at his price, he's a mid-pricer, which you always hate. You always hate a person priced between 250 and 400,000. Those mid-prices are always fraught with danger. Some of them do take off, while others do just not go anywhere and don't really make you any money away anyway, and sort of restrict you from getting another premium or getting another rookie. But he's someone that I would keep an eye on. I would not, under any circumstances, not pick Fantasia from the start. But I would keep an eye on how his season goes. If he gets off to a good start in the season, he has a first 2 really solid games, and he looks like he's going to make a fair bit of money, he might be someone that you might want to pick as a bit of a point of difference. Especially because he's in the forward line, and we know, and I've stressed in the past, the forward line picks this year aren't the best. Tom Stewart from the Hawthorn and Geelong game. Again, I could have picked a few in here. Jaeger was one that sort of had a bit of a good game. Aaron Black also had a really good game. He kicked 4 goals. But one I've picked is Tom Stewart. Now, the reason I'm really excited about him is he's a rookie price Geelong player that seemed to get a lot of the ball and have a few touches, especially in defence. And the JLT series is the part where you really want to be looking at those rookies. And Tom Stewart was one that played really well. Now, he might not be playing round 1 or in the first half of the season, but he could be one to keep an eye on if he doesn't play at the start of the season, someone that could be looking at a potential upgrade target. But he's one that could be one to keep an eye on, not just at the start of this season, but midway through the season if he finds his way eventually into the team. Just rambled on there for a second. Anyway, next game is GWS and West Coast. Now, from all reports, GWS did it pretty simple. It wasn't even GWS's top team. I think they only had, from what I heard, about 6 of their best 22 players out there. So they had a really weakened squad, and they still seem to to sort West Coast out pretty easily. I don't know who West Coast had out. I imagine West Coast had a few of theirs out too. But it just shows how scary GWS are heading into the new season. Anyway, back on Supercoach stuff. Well, the one I've picked out of here is Francis Watson. He had 15 touches, he had 7 marks, and the best part about him, he's only $102,000, which is super, super cheap. So usually that means he might be on the rookie list or he might be a late pick, but 15 touches, 7 marks, even if it is only a JLT series game, that must put him in the reckoning for a position. Maybe not in round 1, but down the line he could be one to keep an eye out on. You don't know if he's going to feature early. I don't know enough about the West Coast list these days to know if he's going to be featuring early. But he is definitely one that could, if he's featuring early at 102,000, he could be a popular pick in that defensive position. Onto the Western Bulldogs Melbourne game, and I picked a sort of tried and true tested player here, and I've picked Jordan Lewis. Now, he doesn't seem as popular this year, and I read around the internet, he doesn't seem to be one that's getting selected a lot by different people, but he's one that I'm guilty of this more than most people, is I just never pick him. I never think about Jordan Lewis. And then about halfway through the season, when he's putting up 120 plus scores, and then I'm always kicking myself going, why didn't I pick Jordan Lewis? This year, another year older, different team for Melbourne. He's probably not going to be his teams aren't going to probably be dominating as much as when he played for Hawthorn. So it could affect his scoring, but he's cheaper than a lot of the other premiums out there. And as a point of difference, he could be a decent pickup for anyone that's willing to take the risk on him. He showed that he can still, in the Melbourne game, he showed that he hasn't really lost a step, even though they're practice games, so you shouldn't read too much into them. But he looked well enough that some people could be considering him heading into the new season. From the Sydney North Melbourne game, we have Callum Mills, who is defensive player, pick player, and he's at $420,000. But he absolutely dominated that game against North Melbourne. He got 29 touches, and even though the Swans came out slightly short, everyone was raving about how well Mills was playing. Again, practice match, don't read much into it, but he had some time in the midfield, and especially if he's got that time in the midfield, he could be a very valuable defending player to pick for your Supercoach. And he's also being $420,000. He's actually cheaper than a lot of the premium defender options. And he could be looking to score better than those players heading into this season. Now, he's a young player, only debuted last year. Those second-year blues, all that sort of stuff could come around to get him. But he's one to definitely keep an eye on, and definitely keeping you thinking as you pick that team for round 1. Last game, my boys Gold Coast against Brisbane, and we came in with a pretty solid win. I'm going to do a bit of a video on that a bit later, but this is all about Supercoach, and the one player that I picked out was one that was maybe not a lot of people would have looked towards to pick a player out of a game to think that they're going to maybe making a Supercoach impact. Brody was one. He had a lot of touch. He played pretty well for the time he spent on. Swallow was pretty solid. He got a few touches, and for his two and a half and a little bit, he played really well. Hall dominated. He got 33 touches, but I must say they're the games that Hall will dominate because there's no physical pressure, so he can run up and down the field without being marshalled around. He can do that as much as he pleases. But the player I picked out was Pierce Hanley. Now, the reason I picked him out more than anything else was something about him surprised me on the weekend. He was starting in the centre square. Now, I don't remember a lot of times Pierce Hanley started in the centre square for Brisbane, but he was in there for Gold Coast, and he could be an interesting pick. If he's in that, towards the top of that midfield rotation, if he's going to be playing in the middle, it could make his scoring, could increase his scoring. Now, Pierce Hanley at the moment is priced at about $450 from memory. You'll see it below, but I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, but he will be relatively cheap, and he could be one you might want to have a look at if you want to take a really big risk. Now, I'm telling you, I probably won't put him in my team, but he's just someone to keep an eye track on if you've got enough money, your money left over, and you're in that awkward position of about $400,000 to $500,000, and you've got one premium midfielder to buy. He could be one you might want to have a look at, especially because he could be seeing a lot more time in the middle. Well, guys, thank you for watching. Do let me know in the comments below if you think any of my choices are completely far out wrong, or you think I've missed any players from the first round of the JLT series that I should be looking at putting into my Supercoach team. Do let me know in the comments below. Make sure you do like this video to make sure that you do keep following all the Supercoach action. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my other videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.